ANGI is the National Association for Young Innovators, the first Italian no-profit organization dedicated to the world of innovation. Our mission and our activities are supported, among others, by the European Parliament's Committee of Culture and Education and some of the most important Italian institutions and universities. One of the main goals of ANGI is that of creating a platform for all the associates to meet and put forward ideas, along with being acknowledged in Italy and the world as a benchmark for innovation. Today, ANGI is at John Cabot University in the heart of Rome, and we have the privilege of interviewing Professor Bill Ollett, Managing Director of the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship and Professor of the Practice at the Mitt Sloan School of Management. Professor Ollett, how do you believe Italy has adapted over the years to new technologies combining history and innovation?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges of entrepreneurship is you have to always look forward. And I think Italy, the good news is Italy has this great past. The bad news is you can't rely on the past, you have to look forward. And so I think that's the hard part for Italians. And the metaphor is kind of when you're in Rome, you can't even dig down at all because you can't disturb the past. But I think that looking forward, the Italian technical education is very, very strong, and that provides a base for which making these companies that could be world-changing going forward.
Mm-hmm. So this is not your first time in Italy, and we are just wondering, is there any particular change you have noticed in Italy and or Italians over the years in their approach to new technologies?
Yes, I mean, I get a lot of students at MIT who are from Italy, and I've been to Italy before, but honestly never to Rome. And they all say, oh, it's changing, it's changing, it's changing. And this has been over the past 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. Before that, there seemed to be kind of this like, oh, we're just going to go to London, we're going to go to Berlin, we're going to go to the United States. But now I see a lot of Italians want to stay home and create great companies here. And it is a terrific market here in Italy. And I think not only a terrific market here in Italy, but as a bridge to the Middle East and other places, Italy offers that great market opportunity to get going.
Mm-hmm. In your book, Disciplined Entrepreneurship Workbook, it is addressed to young entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs. So let's imagine to be in a room with all of them.
Yes.
What is the common denominator and what makes them different? I mean, how do you interact with both youngsters and elders, more experienced entrepreneurs,
Yes. So first of all, a lot of times when I explain to first-time entrepreneurs, I go, why would you do it any other way? Mm-hmm. But when you talk to serial entrepreneurs, it actually sticks more because they've done it and they've realized you don't always have time to think things through. And while in the book a lot of what I say is obvious, it's not obvious when you're actually an entrepreneur because you've got so many different things coming at you at the same time. And that's the nature of I believe good knowledge, is that once you're told it, it becomes obvious, but before you know it, you just don't know what to do. So that would be the big difference, is that people who have been experienced have gotten their nose bloodied or run into walls, and they're more receptive to the ideas, whereas younger entrepreneurs haven't seen these problems and they're not as open to it. I would equate it to the same as like when I coach basketball. If someone has played basketball, it's much easier to coach them than someone who hasn't played basketball, mm-hmm. because they have context.
Mm-hmm. So of the 24-step framework you highlight in your book, which one do you believe is the most important, if any?
Oh, the first and most important one is the first step, because in the first step, if you don't do it correctly, you won't get to all the other ones. So the first step is basically stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about the customer and build everything back from the customer, because you must get that. And most entrepreneurs, like I did in my first company, you think about, what do I care about? What do I care about? Well, it's not about you, it's about the customer. And so in the first step, we invert the thinking that's traditionally in people to say, build from the customer back, not what you want out. So it's got to come from the customer back, not what you want out, and that happens in the first step.
So you have a terrific background in education in Harvard, MIT, and the question is, do you think that a high level of education is an asset to be a successful entrepreneur?
So I get questions of people who come in and say, well, I want to drop out of college to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And I say, you're crazy. And they say, wait, you're the head of entrepreneurship. Don't you believe in this? Peter Thiel says that's what we should do. And I say, no, absolutely not. life is long, and great entrepreneurs build off a body of knowledge, not just science, technology, engineering, and math, but just basic human ability to communicate and get along with people and write. This is very, very important. So I encourage not only my students to finish their education, because that only comes along once. That you're going to build on that the rest of your life. But one of them I was just talking to here is maybe you should go work at a bigger company like a Google for a while and then come out, because you need to have a strong skill set, because once you become an entrepreneur, you're going to be on your own. And so everything you can do to build that strong skill set before you rush off into the entrepreneurial battle, you're put into the Coliseum to fight the gladiator. All that is worthwhile. So absolutely get the most out of school. Don't waste a day in your life.
So over the years, you have directly raised over $100 million and more importantly, created hundreds of millions of dollars of shareholder value through your companies. What is the secret of your success?
The secret of success is being systematic about how I do it. And every time that you don't succeed, you have to say, what did I learn from this? How do I change it so the next time I succeed? So I think it's that resilience, that sometimes called anti-fragility. I learned as a basketball player. I was a basketball player, and everyone goes, "Oh, you did very well in basketball," but I lost more games than most other people. But when you lose a game on Thursday, you have to go home and say, I didn't like losing. What did I learn from that? And you have to wake up on Friday and come back and say, okay, let me try this and let me get better at it. So it's just a continuous process of getting better and not allowing yourself to get discouraged.
So in fact, my next question was, have you ever failed in a project? And I guess your answer is absolutely yes.
Oh, absolutely. I failed. In that room today, I failed more than anybody else. In fact, you can point to things that I did where I've made decisions that lost $100 million. And that's not something I'm particularly proud of, but in doing that, but there are other decisions I made where I made, hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's like a sport, it's like a soccer match. You might give up a goal, but you have to pick your head up and say, okay, what do we do now? And as long as you score more goals than you let up, then you're winning, right? And if you never want to give up a goal, then not playing, you'll never give up a goal, but you'll never score goals either. So you have to engage with it, and you have to be willing to put yourself out on the field to make mistakes, but bounce back.
Absolutely. And what about big data? How do you believe they will boost new innovations and technologies?
So big data is the future of the world and entrepreneurs as well. There will be more data produced in 2019 than the entire history of mankind. Let me repeat that. Through our phones, our Fitbits, watches, our computers, our cars, our IoT devices, our video cameras, there will be more data produced in 2019 than the entire history of mankind. And it will be the same in 2020. And so the question isn't whether there will be data. The question is who is going to effectively utilize that data. And we want people who can utilize that for society's good. The whole thing with Cambridge Analytica and what you see now is just the beginning. We at MIT have started a college of computing that will now be able to use machine learning and other tools, data analytics, to take advantage of that data, because it's not like it's not there. It is definitely there. And the ones who know how to use it will be the winners. The ones who don't will be the losers of tomorrow.
Climate change and innovation, in what way do you think they actually interact? So
entrepreneurs over history have solved the world's most intractable problems. And climate change is not just an economic problem, it's a moral imperative for us right now. And so we have a class called Clean Energy Ventures at MIT. We have something called the Clean Energy Prize. And we're applying entrepreneurial kind of mindset, skill set, and way of operating to this field to see dramatic improvements. But that being said, unlike with computer, entrepreneurship, IT, information technology, in energy, entrepreneurs can't do it alone. They need to work with big companies, they need to work with the government. So while it's entrepreneurship, it's a more complicated form of entrepreneurship that's going to take a longer period of time, and there are more stakeholders involved in it, and the price to get into it is higher. But I believe very much so that entrepreneurship must play a key role in that, and I'm on the board of some companies now that do cleaner transportation that I think is very important to the future.
Mm-hmm. So we would like in Italy to work also with new policies and promoting new policies. And regarding the U.S. policy making over the years, which laws and regulations have boosted innovation and new technologies, and how?
So, first of all, I think that there's types of entrepreneurship. There's different types of entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, entrepreneurship has to come from the bottoms up. Everyone says, I want an entrepreneurial ecosystem. The single necessary and sufficient condition for an entrepreneurial ecosystem is entrepreneurs. And it's not government, it's not risk capital, it's not big corporations. And just like in a business, the single necessary and sufficient condition for a business is a customer, and you always put a customer at the middle. So these entrepreneurs need to drive the system. And to me, the biggest payback that I see is investment in entrepreneurial education. You must create entrepreneurs, they must be high quality, and then they must be connected to each other. So at the end of the day, it comes back to entrepreneurial education, and then you move out from there. And we might not have the best entrepreneurial policies in the United States, but because we have so many strong entrepreneurs and they're connected together, they can overcome other policies. And you see this over and over again. Someone said to Charlie Baker, who I played basketball with, as governor of Massachusetts, said, how do you make such a great entrepreneurial ecosystem? And he said, oh, it's easy. Just get MIT and Harvard and put them in there and wait 150 years and you'll get a great entrepreneurial ecosystem. So it has to do with getting good entrepreneurs and then getting out of the way. Sometimes government involvement can be too much.
Okay. Apart from your discipline entrepreneurship workbook, give us another title of a classic novel you actually suggest to read that has changed your life in some way.
Yes, so I have a website now because I get this question a lot, and I have a lot of books, and I list them all there. If you go to disciplineentrpreneurship.com, and in the entrepreneurship area, I mean, you start with Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. That's really, to me, was the first book that was like, wow, this really makes sense. And that's not an academic book, but that affected so much of new technology adoption cycle. And once I saw that, I said, that makes a lot of sense. And then there are a whole bunch of other books. Right now, I'm looking at the behavioral economics books like Predictably Irrational by Daniel O'Reilly, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, because entrepreneurs have to change behavior, and this whole area of behavioral economics is very important. I would just say one other book that's really important is Noam Wasserman's Founder's Dilemmas, because my book deals with the analytic and implementation aspects of it. There's this human aspect of it, like how do you choose your team? How do you get the roles and responsibility right? And Noam Wasserman does that. And I'll just say the last thing, that kind of the media of choice for entrepreneurs is not just books anymore, it's podcasts. And one of the podcasts I listen to and I'm very high on is Zero to IPO. It's by someone named Freddie Karst, who founded Okta, which is now a $9 billion company. And that gives a lot of good guidance to entrepreneurs.
Okay, then we'll read that, definitely. So one of ANGI's main purposes is that of creating a common platform for researchers, startup developers, and young innovators.
Yes.
What would you like to share? Any thoughts with them, if any?
So I think one thing that I've learned in teaching entrepreneurship for 10 years and really seeing it, what's effective, what works and what doesn't, is first of all, everybody knows you have to have the heart to be an entrepreneur. You have to be willing to be different. If all the fish are swimming this way, are you willing to swim the other way? So you can't just do what everybody else is doing. So, and that's what I call the heart. Some people call the mindset, the spirit. But then after you get someone excited to rush into battle, you then have to train them. And that means they have to have the knowledge to be able to do that. And that's the common language that we talk about in things like disciplined entrepreneurship. So here are the first principles. And then the third H, after the heart and the head, is the hands. And that's that you have to have apprenticeship models that teach them how to put this knowledge into practice and give them the ability to go from theory to practice over and over again, like we do in basketball or sports or other things that are crafts. And but the last H was not obvious to me, and that really became obvious to me over the past 2 or 3 years, is home. You must build communities. To be successful entrepreneurs, you need to be around you don't need to be. Your odds of success to be around other entrepreneurs, because not just because they'll give you emotional support, but because they will help you in so many different ways. And as Rudyard Kipling said in The Law of the Jungle, the strength of the pack is in the wolf. So each wolf needs to be strong, but the strength of the wolf is in the pack. And so this idea of communities or home is the one thing that I didn't know, and what you're doing now is very, very important. It's very hard to be an entrepreneur by yourself, but when you form communities, you see these entrepreneurs blossom and grow and create more entrepreneurs, and that's what we need. We don't need 3 new entrepreneurs in Italy. We need 1 million new entrepreneurs. We need 2 million entrepreneurs, and that's what communities will help you do, and that's why I'm so excited about what you're doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Allitt. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to get into interview you, and we look forward to have you once again here in Italy, maybe at our ANGI prize that every year we organize this big prize in December at the Chamber of Deputies here in Italy, and we give this prize to the best, entrepreneurs and new startups. So we'd love to have you.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. It's been my honor, and I've really enjoyed Rome and Italy.